Good evening and welcome to Ganashot and Jahan to all of you. Uh, you know, many times when we discuss about firepower, drones, missiles, rockets, guns, everyone comes. So, what's the difference between this and that? Is a drone better or a missile better? I think it's more, prudent to buy drones than buy fighter aircraft. Even Elon Musk has gone on record to say, when you can have drones, why do you need F-35s? It's a debate. It's a conscientious, debate. And most of us get carried away by the idea of the day. Right? Someone writes something and we get carried away. That's fine. That's natural for anyone who doesn't understand firepower or who's not been in war or who's not been in planning in war or operations. It all seems nothing. But actually, when you are uh, into the thick of things, uh, there's a lot of diligence required. A lot of factors are taken into account: your production capability, your cost, your reliability of that system, X, Y, Z, and so many of them. And then you come to a force mix, and that force mix is based on your terrain. I mean, it's a packet. It's a packet which if I explain to you also, you won't understand it. But then what we can understand is what I'm trying to make you. I'll explain to you today in simplest terms. I've actually got just about 4 5 slides today, unlike other days, where I'll explain what are the differences between a, a fighter aircraft, a drone, a missile, or a you gun, and where it can be used. Right. So we'll start with this. It's a very simple kind of a presentation today to make you understand uh, which is the best method to deliver firepower. Right. You have to understand the firepower mix. That's important. When you look at firepower mix, what happens? You know, uh, for any force, generally as a thumb rule, tube artillery and drones are about 50 to 75%. And tube artillery is more than 50%, drones about 10 to 15%. Okay. Rockets and missiles are about 10 to 20% of a force mix. Aerial systems, I'll say manned and unmanned, long range, are about 10 to 20%. That is aircraft, uh, you know, armed drones. And these drones are fundamentally fixed wing drones. The ones which I've shown here are rotary drones, hexacopters, quadcopters, and that variety. And this is long range. And then you have long range missiles, which are just about 5 to 10% of a force mix. More than that, you don't have. Actually, that's how it is. When you say force mix, it's in the number of launchers which you have, it's in the number of amount of ammunition you have, and things like that. But why is this so? That's the larger issue. Okay, now we'll take factor that in. Generally you have to handle or deliver firepower from the tactical depth to the strategic depth. Okay, what is tactical depth? Tactical depth is around 40 kilometers, right? Around 40 kilometers, where you are face to face with the enemy. His trenches, his weapon systems, his headquarters, his ammunition dumps, all, which are across each other, you can see with short range systems. And for that 40 kilometers, you generally have to apply firepower with tube artillery or guns and drones. Of course, you can use rockets and missiles, but they're not that good for that. Okay, you have better uses. Then you have targets in the operational depth. Operational depth is around, say, 100 to 200 kilometers. Here I've shown it as 200 kilometers. So anything between, I'll put it in operational depth is, say, 40 to 200 kilometers. There, again, you can, the matching firepower is rockets and missiles. And in this depth, aerial systems come into play, unmanned and manned. And beyond that are long range missiles, right? That is the strategic depth. What is strategic depth? I think anything about 200 kilometers is strategic depth. Now you'll say, look, modern aircraft have a range of 500 kilometers and you can use them over long distances with air to air refueling and all that. That's all fine. It's nice to say air to air refueling and things like that. But remember, it takes time. You got to put that, fighter 1,500 kilometers away, right? There and do air to air refueling. It takes time. And there's only one pilot there. You can't get him out. How long will that pilot exist out there? Right? Isn't it? He can't be there for more than 10, 12, 14 hours. After that, he'll black out. And how much ammunition can you carry? So your radius of action gets limited. Okay, it's not so easy to say just because a aircraft can go 500 kilometers with just fuel, right? I'll employ it there. But once you load that aircraft with ammunition, its operating range reduces. So it's the operating range which matters. And based on that operating range, the operational depth is anywhere between 40 to 200 kilometers. So beyond that is strategic depth. Then you're hitting at strategic targets. Okay, but if this so, let's look at this. There's something called, a target and an ammunition mix. I mean, you see this, this is conical in nature. Why? At near ranges, right, the number of targets are more. The kind of targets are more. What do you get? You'll have troops, you'll have their logistic nodes, you'll have armored vehicles, you'll have their B vehicles. B vehicles are transport convoys and things like that. So the number of, because you're facing face to face and the number of targets are more. If the number of targets are more on the front line, the engagements also will be more and the kind of ammunition you apply there also will be more. So that's why this base is broad. The base of this triangle is broad in this area. Yeah, it's very broad. Now, as you keep going in depth, it narrows because the targets are fewer. Look at it. Suppose you want to take on 5, 6 cities in the strategic depth. There'll only be 5, 6 cities. No, there'll not be 20, 30, 40. So in the strategic depth, the number of targets should decrease. If the number of targets decrease, simultaneously the number of vectors or the number of firepower delivery systems which you have also needs to increase, isn't it? You can't say, no, I'll have so many, my force will be only long range missiles, but the targets there are very few. Isn't it? So there is a correlationship between what targets appear on the battlefield and how they appear. As the battlefield keeps increasing in depth, the number of targets keep reducing. This is a fundamental thing. And if you understand this, the rest everything falls into place. And whenever I talk about firepower, I make people understand this. Okay. Now let's look at the next thing. There are a few issues which I want to highlight to all of you. The Everyone today talks of precision and cheap stuff and all that. The cheap and precise systems don't make tanks, artillery, and other elements obsolete. You can't say that just because I have drones, they're very cheap, right, and they're very precise. I don't need tanks. I don't need artillery. I don't need rocket, self-propelled. I mean, just your cargo stuff kind, handheld anti-tank weapons or handheld air defense systems. No, they're not obsolete. They'll never become obsolete. These are axioms, right? I'm not talking of my opinion. This is a generalistic opinion which people will follow. This is axiomatic. It's an axiom. Now, all future battlefields, ever since I've remembered, people say it's characterized by a mix of high-end systems, which are smaller in number, and traditional systems in greater number. That's always the case. You can't have all high-end, systems. Even China, I keep putting out, I have this, I have that, all that. Their high-end systems are just a handful. Their normal, traditional, run-of-the-mill systems are more. They don't tell it, and we don't believe it. That's part of the information warfare. Okay. Small numbers of high-end weapons don't deliver victory. There's another good old saying in artillery. Small number, small number of big shells have lesser effect compared to more number of small shells. Same thing here. If you have some high-end 3-4 systems, they don't deliver victory to you. Okay? So it's not a standalone thing with just one weapon system. No weapon system guarantees victory in battle. Okay? Now, if you have a large number of cheaper weapon systems, right, and run-of-the-mill weapon systems, they force multiply these high-end systems. So the effect of the high-end systems increases manifold if you have a large number of traditional systems. They are the platform on which you can ride the high-end systems. Okay. Then countries stand a better chance of enduring a protracted war with deep reserves of cheaper weapon systems. Cheaper weapon systems, right, are those which are run of the mill. So if you have more of them, and because you're going to use more of them, your battlefield stamina increases. Whereas if you have a few high-end systems which are costly, you can't simply afford them. So there has to be a balance, right? And cheaper systems, you have more stocks vis-a-vis high-end systems, which are more expensive. Common sense, fundamental common sense. Okay, so this is how these things work. Now let's compare, quality to quality and all that. So this is the table, right? Now let's say the basic requirement of any delivery system is range. You have to reach out to the enemy or reach into his depth. So if you take range and compare a gun, a missile, a drone, or an aircraft, you'll see in terms of range, the gun gives you the least. The guns can fire up to about 40 odd kilometers, right? Missiles give you the best range because you can fire missiles up to intercontinental ranges. Really long. Drones are variable. Of course, rockets and missiles have the capability of covering tactical depths, operational and strategic depths. Drones are variable. They can complement guns at shorter ranges. They can complement missiles at longer ranges. Cruise missile. We saw that in the Iran attack. Iran sent drones and long range drones and cruise missiles and ballistic missiles for long range. So drones are variable. In terms of aircraft, they're medium sized. Okay. To send aircraft to over a distance of 1,000 kilometers to attack AO, you need tremendous capabilities. It can be done. It's not as if after all, Israel did it against Iran. In the Gulf War, US did it against Iraq over and over again. But that is in certain circumstances. You can't keep doing it every day. And especially the Chinese, they can't do it because the terrain restricts them. So the first requirement of firepower is range, the ability to reach far into it. Or the ability to reach, I would say the requirement of range is the ability to reach enemy's target or enemy assets the way you want it to reach completely. The second thing is, okay, you have reached him, you have to be lethal. You have to be able to destroy him. And for that, lethality is a combination of a good warhead, your ability to get hold of the target and analyze it, get its coordinates, and acquire the target in the same reference frame as which you are firing. Then you need precision. How you get that precision is different, but you need precision. And it depends on the target posture itself. No, lethality for a ammunition dump is different because ammunition dump will be completely buried, concrete around and all. You need different types of warheads. Against trenches, you need different types of warheads. Against soft B vehicles or rather normal trucks and cars and bikes, you need different type of ammunition. And if it is things like ammunition, petrol dumps and all that, you need different types of ammunition. So the target posture or the target is different. Now, when you look at lethality, guns give you the max possible lethality under certain circumstances because you can sustain the fire. But under certain circumstances, they give you the least. It's flipped both ways because lethality is to a large extent dependent on the target. In the case of a missile, it is variable. Okay, it's variable. In the case of drones, lethality is very high because you can precisely hit that chap. That precision gives you the advantage. Again, aircraft is variable. So now you see, for a particular target, under certain circumstances, just these two factors of range and lethality indicate to you, oh, for a particular target, the best is drones. For a particular target, the best is missiles. For another target, you might like aircraft. But these are not the only things which decide the whole story. Then you have something called the dead zone. What is the dead zone? When you fire a rocket or a missile or something, there is a range below which you can't fire. That is dead. You can't fire at all. In that, you need to have a different kind of a weapon to cover that. So guns don't have dead zones, hardly 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers max. That is irrelevant. But that is made up by direct firing. So there's no dead zone. Missiles have dead zones, especially the long range missiles. Drones again don't have dead zones. For aircraft, it doesn't matter. Aircraft can go anywhere it wants. So the requirement of this covering the dead zone means for covering the battlefield from your, front line to the depth, you need different weapon systems. Whether there are some places your weapon system won't reach. So some other weapon system has to be brought in. Right? Then let's look at reaction time or response time. Guns are the least. You give a target within 2 minutes, that artillery shell will fall on the target. Guaranteed. That's the speed. Okay. Missiles have a little lesser reaction time, response time, because you need to get the missile, get it ready, initialize it, and fire. So if you think you can engage a missile at the drop of a hat, no, you have to plan. Normally, missile firing is very, very, very pre-planned. Rocket firing is instantaneous. Rockets are like guns, quick reaction. Drones have less reaction time, but then if you want to engage with a drone, the time required for the drone to go from your own location to the target has to be taken into account. That's why I said it is less, it's there, but the reaction time is not fast. In terms of aircraft, the reaction time is response time is more, because aircraft you have to plan and send. You can't say there's an enemy there, go get the aircraft here, well, let's fire on it. It doesn't happen. You have to plan. Air power, especially aircraft, fighter aircraft or bombers or whatever that variety, you plan. They're all pre-planned. Very few are impromptu. Okay. What about recovery? When you launch the thing, would you like to recover it back or not for a reuse? In the case of guns, there's no recovery required at all. In the case of a missile, there's no recovery again. You can't recover it. But drones, you can recover back, because you'll get them, you'll fly them back. And aircraft, you'll fly them back. So you can reuse them. The advantage of recovery is it's reusable. In the case of a missile, it's one-time use. And then these have to be vulnerable to the enemy air defense or not. Guns are not, it doesn't matter. There's no AD against guns. You can't just protect yourself against artillery. That's why artillery is the biggest killer in battlefield. And artillery is the biggest killer in battlefield, not from now, from ever since it was discovered. Okay. And that which you should never have a doubt. There's no protection against guns except putting yourself under something. In the case of a missile, the vulnerability is less, because certain missiles you will be able to protect yourself, but certain missiles you can't protect yourself, especially those which are fired in salvos, like Grads or the Pinakas. You can't protect yourself against 14, 15 rockets coming in a salvo on you on one target. You don't have that kind of AD. No country will have that kind of air defense systems. Yeah, long range systems, you have adequate notice, you have adequate radars, you have good information, then you can intercept it. But guns, you can't intercept. Rockets, you can't intercept. Okay. Drones, you can. You can intercept drone by many methods, active or passive. So they're vulnerable. So are aircraft. So again, you see, in certain conditions, you put that weapon, which is not vulnerable. There's no protection for the enemy against that weapon. All he has to do is either dig down, cover himself up, or not be there. As simple as that. So vulnerability to air defense wise, right? Cost. Rokda. What is the cost? And when you say the cost, There's the cost of the system and the cost of the ammunition. Okay. So cost is a very, 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 very important factor when you're employing a, a delivery system in battle. Guns and its ammunition are the cheapest. You can mass produce them. And that is why you are able to apply this across the maximum number of targets which will appear in front of you. And that's what the natural state is. Okay. Missiles are cheaper because of various reasons. You can configure a missile which is relatively cheap. As far as drones are concerned, they could be cheap, they could be costly. It depends on what kind of a drone you're using. Same, in fact, the same thing applies for a missile also. It depends on which kind of a missile you're using. If you are using a long range guided weapon, the cost goes up. But if you're using an unguided missile, then the cost goes down. Aircraft is always costly, where the platform is costly, and the ammunition also is costly, and the man is the costliest. Okay. And then battlefields are active day and night under all kinds of weather conditions. So what about the weather? Weather is an important part. Day or night is important when you want to engage. And for that, you look at the guns, they're all weather. Missiles are all weather. Drones are fair weather. You can't put a drone all weather. Yeah, long range satellite controlled drones can go above cloud level and fly and be all weather, not anything else. But even satellite drones, it's not so easy, right? It's not so easy because the communication channels in the drones get cut. Even satellite comms, then they have problems. So it's not really all weather, largely fair weather, but you can push it through. Same thing with aircraft. Some aircraft are all weather, some aircraft are fair weather. Right? Now, when you say fair weather, all weather, it's related largely to day and night. All weather, when you say, it also includes the ambient weather conditions. Okay. Now, the others, in terms of target acquisition and weapon delivery, what do you need? You need a high degree of target acquisition for weapon delivery in terms of guns, for guns. You need it. You can't just fire guns wherever they want. In terms of missiles, slightly better because once you get the target, you can feed the target data into a missile and let him go. And the other thing is if you're using unguided missiles in a salvo and things like that, which spread, you're intentionally going to use firepower to cover an area because you don't know the target. You know there's something there, but you don't know where exactly it is. So what you do is then you fire a salvo which can spread over an area. You don't want precision. Precision is not always good. There are times you don't need precision. Okay, you don't need precision. You let go and so that he covers an area. You let go. Even that's the beauty of guns. They cover area. So whoever is in that area gets hit. Now, in terms of drones, drones can do their own target acquisition and home on. They are very good. That's why drones are lethal. For aircraft, it's partial. You always have to acquire the target and tell the pilot, this is your target, go. And let him go to a particular point. You route him through a particular area, taking all the other factors into consideration. What lethality you want, what's the enemy vulnerability, does he have his air defense or not, all that. And he can then confirm that acquisition of the target at the final end. Okay. Now the next factor which you have to factor in is load capacity. How much can you load? And that will depend on at what intensity you can engage targets and how many times you can engage targets. That's the important thing. In terms of load capacity, guns have a limited load. Okay? Because the volume of requirement in guns is huge. So the amount of fire part delivery which you can do per gun is limited. But having said that, if I put more guns into action and I spread out my logistics, then the volume is high. Then the capacity to deliver on the target is very high. In fact, it's the highest. In terms of the load carrying capacity, per say a shell say has just about 7 to 8 or about 14-15 kg of TNT, a 155 mm shell. So the load is less. Missile, it's much better because it can carry any amount of load. It can carry 1 ton, 2 ton loads. Drones have the least load carrying capacities. And they give the least volume at the target end. What they can't do by volume, what they can't do by the load carrying capacity, they make good by precision. But guns, though each shell gives you limited load, but the number of rounds which you fire compensates. Aircraft is limited. I won't say less, it's limited. Because what the aircraft can carry, that's the only payload you can take. Okay. Then what's the manpower risk? There's no manpower risk for guns, missiles, drones. Manpower risk is only for aircraft. Okay. That's the main thing. That's a major thing you have to factor in when you employ a particular kind of firepower. Then what about air superiority? Do you need air superiority before you fire anything? For guns, it doesn't matter. There's no air superiority required. Nothing. You just fire. Even for missiles, it doesn't matter. You just fire. You know that he's got AD. I mean, if you are looking at long-range missiles or SRBMs or MRBMs or ICBMs, you take measures to evade his, ability to intercept you. But for drones and aircraft, you need air superiority. You have to keep his aircraft out, his air assets out. You have to suppress his AD. You have to suppress his air defense before you apply drones or aircraft. Of course, you can, apply drones or aircraft by better routing. You go through a route where there's no chance of an aircraft coming or his air defense being active. So these are tricks. Then what's the operating ceiling? For guns, the operating ceiling is very high. You can fire where you want. It doesn't matter. Even for a missile, it is pretty high. But for drones, it's very low. Because after a particular height, drones can't fly. And those drones which can fly at that height can't deliver firepower. Limited. Aircraft, again, op ceiling is limited by the flight envelope of that aircraft. That's why I said lower, but if you have a very efficient aircraft, the op ceiling can go up. What about maneuverability? Guns give you the least maneuverability when you hit a target. Once you fire, that's it, fire and forget. Missiles are 50-50. When I say 50-50, certain missiles like cruise missiles, you can maneuver, but normal ballistic missiles, you can't maneuver. Or rockets, you can't maneuver. In drones, maneuverability is very high. We all know that you can take a drone wherever you want. In aircraft, the maneuverability is very high, but it's a complex maneuverability. It's not easy. It's not simple that you can maneuver that chap where he wants to go, or rather, where you want him to go. Then what about logistics? Logistics for a gun, though I have written complex out here, they could be simple, but they're heavy. They could be complex, they could be simple, but in all cases, you need a sustained logistics effort to take care of guns. For missiles, the logistics is very complex. Believe you me. The logistics is complex in peacetime, the logistics is complex in wartime. Right? Drones, it is simple. Drones fly under all conditions. Or rather, the logistics of a drone are generally simple. That is for a quadcopter or a hexacopter. But when you look at fixed wing drones, it's difficult. It's not simple. Believe you me, I've operated them and they're not simple. They're very complex. You need to have a lot of spares, you need to have a lot of sensors, because a drone is a complex animal. And the thing is that fellow is flying somewhere where you without anyone. It's complex, right? Aircraft is complex. Logistics. Infrastructure wise, guns have very simple infrastructure. Missile infrastructure is very complex. Drones is simple, relatively simple, like I said, but when you look at fixed wing drones, long range drones, it becomes complex. Aircraft infrastructure is complex. You need an air base, everything. Right? So I've put about 14, 15 factors which, have to be taken into account when you are using a particular weapon system. You'll see, I'm sure by the end of what I've told you, no weapon system is better than the other. Every weapon system is good at a particular point of time. Every weapon system is damn good for a particular eventuality. After that, it is no use. Every weapon system complements the other. So, to go only on fighters or go only on drones or only on missiles or only on guns is foolish. They complement each other. They make good each other's thing. Just think of, I keep getting back, Iran. Iran doesn't have an air force of note. So what has it done? It is complemented by missiles. Iran does not perceive any attack on its borders from Pakistan or from Iraq or from the north, Afghanistan or from sea. So it doesn't need guns too many also. And in any case, we don't know how many guns Iran has. So what has it done? It has maximized on missiles and drones. See the force structure? Okay. Whereas a country like Israel needs all four because it has to deal with Hamas. You need guns, you need tanks, you need drones, you need rockets, you need missiles, and you need aircraft. Aircraft and long range missiles you need to handle Iran. You look at China. Whatever China has or doesn't have, it has only 4 airfields in Tibet. It can keep increasing the runway length, all that. That's all fine. It's got only that many airfields in Tibet. It might make one more, or that's all. Now, what happens in high altitude? In high altitude, the oxygen content is less. So the aircraft can't burn the fuel, especially during it needs maximum load while taking off or landing. It doesn't have that capability. Right? So if That doesn't happen, you can't take enough load. The maximum load carrying capacity of aircraft in high altitude is limited. So, and that load has to be in the form how much fuel and how much weapons. If you put more weapons and less fuel, the range is less. If you put more fuel and less weapons, you have more range, but effectiveness is less. See, in all overall, altitude reduces. So your efficacy of aircraft in altitude is less. Except Hotan, which is an air base that's also at about 5,000 feet. Uh, Tibet's air bases are at altitude, whereas we are all at low altitude. So you can have more aircraft. That is why China gets more missiles. It's not that he's got long range and he can do what he wants. But even that, there's a problem because the terrain restricts how much you can get. Okay. And you can't keep firing long range missiles. You need to come close. The battles are always fought in, man to man. If you're doing non-contact battle, ये वो कुछ नहीं होगा. वो तो, by now we know non-contact battle has no value, especially in India-China kind of a situation. You need dum. उसको, you need to do patrolling. That's why we have started doing patrolling. Today I saw some news where people went on ponies, Ladakh ponies, did patrolling, took photographs, and came back. So there is no weapon system which has got is a silver bullet in battle. So you need to have a balance, and that balance comes from what I showed you as earlier. Each range for each kind of environment, you need to have a particular weapon system suitable for that particular targets which appear in that area. And this is almost certainty. You can substitute. If you don't have guns, you can use rockets. Or if you don't have rockets, you can use guns, incidentally. You can position guns in such a manner that you get additional range. You can use that. Okay. You don't have drones, fine. To some extent, you can use rockets and missiles. You don't have aircraft, you can use this thing. So you can do a bit of a chip chop here, but largely you need all four. And you need all four in a proper balance. You don't have that balance, and that balance comes from your operational requirement, your own terrain conditions, and things like that. Right? So fine. There's a very simple presentation based on common logic and nothing very great. But this question keeps coming up again and again. So I thought I'll address it today. Right? With this, I'll take on questions. And before I take on questions, if you like this video, please press that like button. And also, those of you who are seeing it for the first time, do subscribe to this channel because it's value for money. I'm very happy. Yesterday, a good journalist of some repute, he said, "Sir, these days I hear people talk of Gunner Shot and they send links of your videos." And then someone asked him, "Do you know this channel run by General Shankar and all that?" So I had to give him a laugh. I mean, that's what he told me. I had to, don't I know General Shankar? So to that extent, it was improving. All of you join in together and we'll do things better. Right? That's the whole idea. And all this is part of democratization of security. All of you should understand what security of the nation is all about and what the geopolitics of India are all about. Because I do everything from an Indian perspective. I don't do it from a other perspective. And like I always say, I do things fairly from experience and with truth and honesty. If there's no honesty in what I speak, then I shouldn't have served in the army. That's as simple as that. I couldn't have served the nation. So I'll tell you everything in its thing. Right. Before I take on the questions, what I want to tell all of you is tomorrow I'm going to start the series with General Pandey of Women in Command. And day after, I'm doing the next one of privileges in command or the privilege of command, right? With General Dua. And then I'll do with General Vinod Bhatia on leadership in command. So I'm going to start a series on command because command is something I feel people don't understand. A lot of people have commented loosely on many things. But I think people need to understand what command in the armed forces means. And that's the whole thing. Um, right? Okay. With this, I'll take some questions. Thank you. First, yeah, Sri Hari Raju Penmatsa, thanks a lot for your membership. So honored. You've done that last month also and this month also. Thank you. Thanks a ton. Okay. Now let me go from the top. Yeah. Could you please let us know the current status of your ramjet powered artillery shell projects? Oh, yeah, we are on track. There's no problem at all. There will be problems. It's not a thing which is going to happen immediately because it's a high tech project. And good part is our technology is proven. Our technology is proven. It's a matter of time now. That's all. And we need certain more technologies which we are trying to master, which is a good thing. And then we will see where we are going. Yeah, it's heartening to know that 12 regiments of long range Pinaka are being inducted. Oh, I didn't know this. Where did this you hear it? Please let me know. But if it is right, it's good. Yeah, bombers is the best. Pawan, no, that's what I said. There is no one weapon which is the best. Whether it's supersonic or hypersonic or no, nothing. You need a mix. Like you have 5 fingers. Can you live with only one finger or a thumb? No, you can't. You need all 5 fingers, isn't it? And all 5 fingers are of different size and shape, right? So it's 5 fingers which make a mutti, not one. Yeah, I am a subscriber to your channel and a regular to your videos. Thanks a lot, Subramanian. My question is whether it is necessary to do this analysis in the open. Oh, this is nothing very great. This everyone knows. This is common military knowledge. I have not actually told you anything special. Okay, if you go into certain this thing, it. Don't worry about it. I'm very conscious of what I know, what I speak. Yeah, you know, and incidentally, I must tell you, there are certain things I've not told. What is important, I've not said. Or rather, what is sensitive in this, I've not said. Why does nobody make nuclear powered aircraft? What if you lose an aircraft? You lose a nuclear reactor. It's a very costly piece. It's just unaffordable. The day we have the capability to make mini nuclear power packs, then you're through. Okay. But what happens, what the fundamental thing is, what will you do with a nuclear powered aircraft? You have to run the turbine. So that mechanism, everything is, still not, it's far away. It's too complex actually. When you have simpler solutions. Okay. Though what you say makes a lot of sense, nuclear powered aircraft, from a particular viewpoint, but I think it's too heavy. Whereas for things like ships, where you need captive power, nuclear ones make good. And you say aircraft range is just about maybe max 10 hours, 12 hours. Ships, submarines, you're on the ball. See, you come out with everything. Drones with stealth capability, endurance and altitude do matter. Everything you are coming. See, when you do come back to that matrix which I've shown you, then you'll realize they are no. I'll need almost 25% of each or something like that. Sir, tell me whether huge manpower or less manpower with advanced tech will win wars. Look, it's not a matter of who will win wars with advanced tech or not, or with more manpower or less manpower. You need the right mix of manpower. Okay, there's one thing you must understand. Every battlefield can take a certain amount of technology it can absorb. Beyond that, application of technology in the battlefield has got no value. Every battlefield has a number of people it can absorb. Beyond that, that has got no value. Right? So it has to be a happy mix of both technology and manpower. Balance. हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना संतुलन. वो बड़ा अच्छा शब्द है. संतुलन की जरूरत है. On a battlefield, we can defend ourselves against China, but how are we placed on economy technology front? I think we are very well placed overall. Provided we can come out of the trap which we have gone into of being dependent on China. Especially things like API and electronics and solar, we've wasted 5 years, right? We need to do something about it. Uh, but it's not so easy for even China to turn the tap off. Okay, there are issues in it. And one of the reasons why I'm worried of opening up our economy to the Chinese is that we might fall, in their trap. That's the thing. You got a point. I have no doubt about it. So ranges start from rifles, machine guns with 350 to 2000 yards to howitzers with 35 kilometers at the tactical level. Beyond that would be sub-strategic with missiles. Yeah. Like I showed you, tactical level is about 40 kilometers. Operational level is 40 to about 200 kilometers. And beyond that is strategic. That's the general, even that is a thumb rule. It's not laid down anywhere. Yeah, with improved precision missiles and cheap and effective drones, could not aircraft be dispensed with the nation's arsenal? You can't. I told you. I told you. You see Iran, how it struggles. It doesn't have any strike capability against Israel. Missiles are not a strike capability. They don't give you definite strike capability. They have one form of strike capability. The man in the loop is very important. So missiles, drones, aircraft complement each other. They're never one. If you don't have anything for some reason, then you can make do with the other, but that's temporary. If you have only this thing, you will be imbalanced. That's why I keep saying Iran is an imbalanced army. There's no balance in that army. To some extent, even China is imbalanced in high altitude. China is also imbalanced in high altitude. Let me tell you this. Don't we need similar analysis of economic weaponry to defend against attacks from adversaries? I completely agree with you. I hope you give it to one of your economic friends to do it. I can do it, but people will say, "यार तुम तो फौजी हो, तुम फौज का बात करो, economics का बात मत करो." That's the thing. The rockets grad would also be tactical. Your views? Yeah, no, not necessary. That's also changing, incidentally. Why Bharat has stopped research on BrahMos 2 due to cause? No, we have not stopped any research. Don't worry. Now, how Agni and missiles can be cost effective. Yes, they are cost effective for the simple reason that it's your indigenous technology. See, the basic maximum money you pay in anything is for technology, and that is cheap here. Yeah, jackpot of members. Thanks a lot to Hari. I'm so grateful to him. Yeah, Anurag, thanking. So great. Yeah. So your chart is not showing range. What is the comparison on the? I showed first range, no? If you want, I'll show it again. Dekho. I'll have to do one little thing. Yeah. The first is range. Dekha? The first factor of any weapon system is range. So that's been shown. So you've not seen it. See it again and hear it again. Yeah. For effective battlefield management and saturation attacks on the target area is best done with tactical weapon systems and munitions. Yeah, I agree with you. That's what I said also. Yeah. Are the drones used by Ukrainians are successful or by Russians are successful? Both are successful. Both are using it innovatively. There's no doubt about it. Ultimately, when you have same type of weapon system, it's your innovative way of applying that particular delivery method is important. And if you have all kinds of a delivery system, the way you deliver this whole package is important. Yeah, that's why fire planning is important. How you apply this fire is important. Okay. And that is why it is important to have joint systems between Navy, Army, and Air Force. Very important. You have to fight seamlessly. So, how can we reduce the cost matrix to achieve the best balance between precision and high payloads to achieve a low to mid-level deterrent? How can we mass produce guided yet cheap missiles? Own technology, as simple as that. Own your own technology, everything goes down. You have to have. But even if you own technology, you can't you don't need so much precision. Precision is not always good. Please remember that. Precision is not always good. Yeah, you are hypnotizing people to join artillery. No, not necessary. You can join Navy, you can join Air Force, but all are firepower platforms. Any thoughts on that? Why Bharat rejected it when went with S400? I think I did a comparison between S400 and THAAD when I did the thing on Israel. Yeah, I remember that now. Abhilash, go to that video of mine which I did with Sri Iyer on P Gurus on Iran Israel. One of those. I covered this. I covered this completely. If you could choose only one out of missiles, artillery, drone, and fighter jets, what would you choose and why? Which of these is standalone? Is no, there's nothing. This is the wrong question. Sir, generals focus more on logistics and fighting because former dictates the later. So, is there any way to integrate logistics supply chain for our munitions? We are integrated. There is no doubt about it. Okay. A, a major part of a generalship is to ensure that your logistics are right. If your logistics are not right, you don't fight. You can't fight. Okay. And it's not only administration is also equally important. And the thing with administration and logistics is it is a peacetime function also. It's 24 by 7. Do the fuel burning problems due to high altitude applied to Chinese missiles launched from Tibet? Possible. They will have the same problems because, the rocket motors might not function very well. But they have a different problem. I'll not talk of it. I'll not talk of it because that will, like someone asks, so you're telling too much. I'll certain things I'll not tell. How many Pinaka batteries, Smudge, MBRL do we have right now? Have we underutilized MBRL's production? Actual figures I really don't know. You'll have to look. Uh, right? These figures, get it off the MOD website or something. For India-China border, which firepower system gives us most benefit compared to others? All are required. There is no one system which will give you the benefit. You, your application is hybrid in nature always. You call it hybrid, you call it mixed. There's no one. There's not a single silver bullet or a straight jacketed solution which you can apply. How much of ammunition expires before use? Any viable technology to salvage expired ammunition? Yeah, that's a very good question. Let me tell you, 80% of our ammunition which we have expires before use. If you don't have a war for 30 years, you turned over ammunition, your complete ammunition twice. 15 years generally is the shelf life of ammunition. 15 years to 20 years. So in 30 years, you almost 1.5 times you have turned over your ammunition completely. And there's nothing you can do to get it out. Okay, respected General Sir, Musk achieved the unimaginable in space tech. What could a similar moonshot in drone space against fighter jets look like? Thank you. Not easy. Not easy at all. Right? You, if you really looking at a moonshot, uh, you need drones and swarms in air to give you protection against uh, incoming aircraft. But the problem with that kind of an approach is you close your airspace. So there is an issue of airspace also. It's not so easy that you can use drones anywhere around and all. There's no moonshot for anything in war. Why are we not able to standardize caliber? We are stuck with 122 mm. We are nowhere in 122. All our guns are 155. We are switching from 105 to 155. There's no doubt in our mind. What kind of strategic firepower, drones, missile, jets would USA prefer at first island chain versus China, and what kind of proportion we should prefer in high Himalayas? Just a general idea. Right. See, uh, I told you, I did that thing. The USA has preferred to use HIMARS in the smaller chains, in the smaller islands, and which are closer to Taiwan. They have put typhoons in Luzon in Philippines, which have long range strategic value. It can cover mainland, it can cover entire South China Sea. Right. So, and they in Okinawa, I think they have long range missile systems also. So it's a mix. Uh, our proportion uh, generally will go by what I said, because in Himalayas, you know, you can't have too many drones, especially high altitude drones. And aircraft utility in Himalayas goes down, not because our people are bad and all. Weather doesn't permit too much deployment of air in Himalayas. So it comes down to missiles and rockets largely. Short range drones you can always use, but long range drones you can't use. So your ability to hit the depth, strategic depth, is largely by missiles and uh, guns. Semiconductors and missile, are they low, high, mid end? They are generally low to mid end. Sorry, I'm a Bangladeshi Hindu. Bangladesh situation has become worse. We can't even show, say Hindu in public. What action India will take? I think we are taking some action. We leave it to the government. I take your point of view. Uh, Out of topic, Hindus in Bangladesh suffering just like Russians did in Ukraine until February 22. Fine. Will at this point of time, I'll not go into Bangladesh because I'll do a proper analysis on Bangladesh one day separately. We just done it about 3 4 days back. Right, Avinash, thanks a lot. You're excellent listening to. Thanks for that compliment. I see all questions are finished. So thanks a lot. It's a very simple thing. It's not a very flashy presentation. I gave you just logic and give you a peep onto how Forge operates. And basically, because a lot of people ask me a lot of these questions, and that's why I came up with this. Tomorrow will be interesting, Woman in Command, and we'll talk this because a new chapter I'm opening altogether, right? Uh, Others will talk on this on other points. Let me talk professionally because at the end of the day, when you have a woman in command, when you have women in the army, they're not there as dolls. They have to win the battle for us. They're part of a system to win the battle. It's not about gender equality. It's not necessary I have women. It's not necessary I don't have women. But with whomever I have to win the war. That's the important thing, right? But that is till tomorrow. Till then, good evening. Thank you and Jai Hind.